Hello and welcome to episode 8 of the Good Dram Show with me, Chris Goodrum. As you can see, this evening we're back here in the shop. So, what interesting drams have I got for you this evening? Well, what we've got here is two, well, what you would call relatively unusual malts, in that we have a whisky from Islay, which hasn't got any peat, and a whisky from Speyside region, which has. Now, as many of you will know, this is quite an unusual thing. Most of the malts from Islay tend to have a certain degree of peat in one amount or other, and obviously Speyside is more well known for its light, elegant, slightly grassy and citrusy malts. So it'll be interesting to see how these two compare against each other. But before we do that, as a number of you will probably know, recently I was involved in judging the World Whisky Awards, and so about 3 weeks ago I was off down to London for the third and final round, and very interesting it was too. And the winner, the overall winner, shall we say, of in the single malts category was yet again another Japanese whisky. This time it was the Yamazaki 25. Incidentally, of all the single malts that I tasted in that category, I didn't actually choose that one as my most favoured. The reason being, it's a sherry monster. It's one of those sort of malts that, you know, you're either going to be really into or you're not. And essentially, as you know by now, that my palate is more in tune, shall we say, with bourbon cask whiskies. It was okay. I mean, it was a really good whisky. For 600 quid a bottle, you'd expect it to be. But it wasn't my favourite. In actual fact, I only scored at the 4th highest. Above that, there was the, for me anyway, there was the 40-year-old Highland Park. Absolutely stunning malt. Okay, yeah, it's getting a little bit long in the tooth, that has to be said. The oak kind of is bittering out the end quite a bit, but you know, you can't fault it. It really was superb. The other malt that, again, I rated higher than that was the Glenfiddich 40-year-old. You say, Glenfiddich? You rate Glenfiddich? Okay, yeah. So the younger bottlings of Glenfiddich are pleasant enough, straightforward, I guess you'd say, but the 40-year-old, again, had a relatively large amount of sherry cask, but it was just so balanced and so juicy and so mature. It was just, you know, a lovely malt. And again, with a price tag of close to £2,000 a bottle, you should hope it is. But my actual favourite was, surprisingly enough, the 25-year-old Spey. I mean, bourbon oaked, absolutely stunning. Honeyed, little bit gristy, loads of old sawdusty oak. It really was impressive. And I actually agonised over, I mean, when we taste these, you have to remember that this is all done completely blind. You don't know what the actual whisky is you're tasting. And for me, it was a real toss-up between the Glenfiddich and the, or should we say, on the day, the Highland Park and the Speyburn, as to which that I thought was the more interesting, and to me, the better of the two whiskies. But there you have it. So yet another Japanese whisky takes the World Whisky Awards. But for me, what was interesting was actually round one. In round one of the competition, I was given the task of tasting blends. Now some people probably might think, well, you drew the short straw on that one, but no, they're interesting. I mean, a number of them were pleasant on the nose, but a little bit dull when it came to the palate. But the thing that amazed me most, or should we say surprised me most, was the lack of consistency. I mean, I suppose it's going to happen when you're bottling something in such a large amount. From time to time, you're going to get batch variations. And this was really evident on 3 in particular, which spring to mind. The first was Johnnie Walker Black Label. First time I tasted it, I really couldn't see what all the fuss was about. It was dull. It just tasted like a homogeneous whisky. You know, there was no flavours coming out or anything like that. But when I retasted it, it was gorgeous. Really full, rich, you know, a really great blend. The other one that was a surprise was the Chivas Regal 18. Again, the last time I tasted that, it was pretty grim, it has to be said. But again, lo and behold, this time round, a really impressive whisky. But on the flip side of the coin, Ballantine's 17. tasted that, absolutely gorgeous, really, really good blend, really harmonious. This time it was sherried, it was overly sherried, one-dimensional, you know, really disappointing. And so in respects it was a very interesting tasting, because it just goes to show that, you know, over the course of time blends do change. You know, there isn't always the consistency of raw materials, there isn't always the consistency of where this raw material comes from, and so you're going to get these differences. But the surprise, like I said, was the Johnnie Walker Black Label. I mean, up until then I just couldn't see what all the fuss was about, but this time round, like I said, it was very, very good. So, shall we finish waffling and shall we taste some whiskey? So, what have I got for you tonight? Well, Tomintoul with a peaty twang. Now, like I was saying earlier, Speyside region is more renowned for light, elegant, slightly grassy, citrusy malts. But if you go back a few years, well, more than a few years in actual fact, to the early 1900s, a lot of peat was being used in Speyside. The blenders wanted peated malts for their blends. It was what was in fashion at the time. But given the course of time, blenders started to want more crisp and clean malts, and hence a number of the Speyside distilleries ditched the use of peat and started, you know, to malt their barley with air or with coal. And so you could say that the Tomintoul with a peaty twang is quite a throwback malt in actual fact. So, but we will see. It's quite young, and we'll see how it stacks up in the peaty league, shall we say. The Caol Ila, on the other hand, now Caol Ila, certainly one of my favourite distilleries. In actual fact, one of the first bottlings that I was introduced to when I got into single malts, and then for months afterwards, all I could sell was Caol Ila. So it's interesting. Does Caol Ila have some guts to it? Does it have anything other than just peat character? Is it one-dimensional, or is there something else to it? Obviously, in tasting this, we shall endeavour to find out. Right. Okay. Shall we start with the nose on the Caol Ila? Now, initially, citrus. Lots and lots of citrus, brine, very, very elegant, very, very deep. It's got a lovely malty, honey, well, slightly honeyed barley core. Little bit of violet possibly. Plenty of salt. Bit of alcohol, obviously, because this is a cask strength bottling. About 63%, I believe. 65.8 in actual fact. It's got some lovely, lovely brine. Great depth to it. So I think the nose obviously goes to show that what a good malt Caol Ila is. And as you probably know, the output at Caol Ila is huge. It's possibly, you could probably get all the other distilleries on Islay and put their output together, and it probably in a year, and it probably wouldn't get to the output of Caol Ila. Hence, it's very flexible. They can do all different levels of peating, and it's a blender's joy, it has to be said. But this is just really interesting nose. You know, strip away all the peat and you actually have a very, very nice whiskey. A little bit coffee now. Yeah, that's very enjoyable. Okay, shall we see what the palate tastes like then? A lot of alcohol, some grist, lots and lots of honey. Whoa, that certainly takes your breath away. That is good. Yeah, again, quite briny, a little bit of citrus, plenty of sort of honey, but it's all kept in check by the coastal character and the alcohol, it has to be said. I mean, that really is mouth-watering. Certainly Certainly good, but I think this definitely needs a drop of water. Yeah, softened it now. Getting some beautiful citrus. Bit of satsuma, possibly. Lightly orange. Again, a little bit of honey. But the depth on that nose is absolutely superb. Really, really nice. Yep, and I'm getting a little bit more of the violety, maybe a little bit of white flower, possibly some white fruit as well. But yeah, that is a superb quality malt. Right, so let's see if the water has tamed the alcohol, shall we say? Mouth-filling. Lots of barley now. A little bit of subtropical fruit, apricot, a little bit of citrus. Getting a little bit of coffee, cocoa from the oak. But yeah, that's lovely. That is really rounded. Probably not quite so coastal now, but the salt is certainly sort of lingering on the edge of the tongue. Yeah, that is really nice. It just goes to show the quality of the spirit that is produced at Caol Ila. Yeah. On to the Tomintoul. As I was saying, this is, could arguably said, you know, a throwback malt to the old days of distilling. Although let's hope it's not sort of old as in grubby and what have you. So let's see what the nose gives us. Yep, that's got some nice phenols. The peat is certainly up first. It's, slightly earthy. Some dust, very dusty. Not heavily peated. I mean, I would guess 15 to maybe 20, 25 at the most. And it's just sort of hovering above the barley. It's got a youthfulness. There's a little bit of youthful cereal character, but it's also got some nice mature honey right in the middle. I mean, this is obviously a vatting of various aged malts. Obviously, predominantly, I would suggest, given that its retail price of sub 30 quid is going to mean that there's more younger malt in this than there is older, but it's really well put together. It has everything you'd want from a a lightly peated malt, but a little bit more sweetness. It's obviously got no coastal character, and is a bit more sort of rounded. But yeah, that's lovely fragrance to it. Okay, shall we see what this tastes like then? Yep, lots of coal dust again. Again, some quite pleasant, rich honey. A little bit of oak. Certainly some white fruit. Little bit of spice. Again, some youthful cerealness. But again, it's really well put together. It has a lovely progression. You get the peat first. Then it moves into sort of the honeyed fruit, and exits with a little bit of bittering oak, but not too much. Yeah, I mean, I certainly think that if you love your peaty malts, that's a lovely malt, and for sub 30 quid, you really can't argue with that. Okay, right. So let's sum these two up. Really interesting. Now, like I said, I think the Tomintoul is you know, an exceptionally good quality dram for less than £30. Certainly has a nice degree of everything, shall we say. I mean, you could argue it could do with a little bit more oak, but you know, I think it is what it is. You know, probably more than a twang of peat, shall we say? But you know, I think altogether really pleasant. And the Caol Ila. Now, it's something approaching 70 odd quid for a 10-year-old. Yeah, okay, you can probably argue it's a little bit expensive. But in saying that, I think the quality is exceptionally good. And if you've had the 12-year-old or the 18-year-old distillery bottlings, or you've had some private bottlings of Caol Ila, I think it makes an interesting change, a refreshing change. And it certainly goes to show that Caol Ila itself is not a, you know, a one-trick pony, for want of a term. It certainly has some distinct character. It's got some depth, and you know, I think a really enjoyable malt. So, if you fancy either of these two, we've got them currently in stock. So if you pop along to our website, www.gauntleys.com, the usual place. And if you want to read any more of my tasting notes on both of these distilleries, and I've tasted a lot of Caol Ila, but then there's probably a lot of it out and about there, then go and have a look at my WordPress blog. So, for this evening, I guess that's basically about it. So, until next time, good evening.
This heart brain of what may never be. Bitter side of restless mind. I'm Mr. Absurd, you see.
Oh, excuse me. I'll edit that bit out, I think. Another outtake, I think.
It takes your breath away and makes you burp.
Yeah, gotta recommend it for that one.